Weeks after the viral expose shook the Caribbean, whispers of a new operation began to surface, one with a coded name as cryptic as its purpose, Seraphim. For Detective Ruddock and journalist Marcia Velez, the trail that began in the mud of Jamaica had led to the docks of Panama, where humanitarian aid still moved under the same flags, the same faces, and the same silence. They had exposed a storm of corruption. Now they were walking straight into its eye. In Kingston, Ruddock sat alone in a dimly lit cafe, his badge suspended, his work unofficial. The government had disowned him publicly, calling his investigation speculative. But privately, the whispers continued. Customs officers missing, anonymous bank deposits, falsified relief shipments. A message appeared on his encrypted phone. Port Colon, Warehouse 19. Night shipments marked medical aid. Look for Seraphim. The sender's name was blurred. Likely Marcia. She had gone underground after threats escalated in Miami. Ruddock took a breath, stared at the rain outside, and booked a one-way ticket to Panama. While Ruddock moved quietly through airports, Marcia Velez was already in Miami, her nerves stretched thin. She met with an undercover Interpol liaison known only as Agent Heller, a calm, meticulous man who spoke in short, coded sentences. Seraphim, he said, is not a shipment. It's a system. The operation, according to Heller, was a multi-country smuggling ring disguised as a disaster logistics network, using post-hurricane chaos to transport high-value contraband, weapons, human cargo, and synthetic narcotics under false humanitarian codes. Their main hub, the Colon Free Zone in Panama, the world's second-largest duty-free port. Interpol had been watching for months, but every time they got close, someone inside leaked the plans. Now they wanted outsiders, people who weren't in the system. That's where Marcia and Ruddock came in. In a sterile room beneath Miami's federal building, Marcia studied satellite imagery, container yards, warehouses, private docks. She spotted one symbol recurring on the shipment manifests, a white feather inside a blue circle, the logo of Seraphim Logistics, supposedly a relief NGO operating in disaster zones. But its financial filings told another story. The company didn't exist before the hurricane. Its funding came from a chain of offshore accounts tied to shell corporations in Belize, Malta, and Cyprus. Beneath every act of charity, there was a business model. And in this case, the profit wasn't from saving lives, it was from selling them. Ruddock arrived in Panama under an assumed identity, a logistics consultant from Kingston. At the Colon Free Zone, shipments moved by the thousands day and night. The air was heavy with diesel and suspicion. He noticed a pattern. Certain containers received priority passage, escorted by armed guards in plain uniforms. Their labels all bore the same feathered emblem. That night, in a hotel room barely big enough for a desk, Ruddock decrypted another message from Marcia. They're moving tonight. Warehouse 19, Dock 12. Operation Seraphim begins. Interpol, working with select units from the Panamanian police, had prepared a covert sting, Operation Seraphim, the counter-operation. The plan was simple. Intercept one shipment. Follow the handlers. Expose the buyers. But in the world of shadows, nothing is ever simple. Agents disguised as dock workers installed trackers inside crates marked vaccines, humanitarian priority. Others monitored the private airstrip just beyond the fence line, the same airstrip connected to the relief bridge scandal. At 22:40 hours, the first convoy rolled in. Trucks painted with fake relief logos, their plates unreadable, under mud and rain. As the team moved in, a sudden blackout swept through the port. The floodlights died. Communication channels went silent. Someone had leaked the operation? Gunfire cracked in the distance. A truck exploded near Dock 12. In the chaos, one container broke open, revealing not medicine, but dozens of oxygen tanks retrofitted to conceal human bodies, sedated and breathing faintly through hidden valves. The agents froze. The operation was no longer about evidence. It was about rescue. Ruddock fought through smoke, pulling open another crate. Inside, a young woman's eyes fluttered open. Her wrists were bound with tape marked Seraphim. The docks became a war zone. By dawn, 19 captives were freed, 3 traffickers arrested. But the masterminds, including Felix Mendez, had vanished. At a safe house in Panama City, Ruddock and Marcia reunited for the first time in months. The footage from the docks, grainy, chaotic, real, became the backbone of an international investigation. Interpol traced the smuggling chain through dummy NGOs in Honduras, Trinidad, and Morocco, all connected by a single offshore account under the alias S. Mendez. Then came the twist. A leaked diplomatic cable revealed that a senior Caribbean minister had signed the original relief contracts for Seraphim Logistics, authorizing their access to restricted disaster zones. Ruddock stared at the document in silence. The signature matched one he knew too well. It was the same minister who had suspended him from duty. Corruption wasn't an infection from the outside. It was homegrown. The real traffickers wore suits, not masks. In Miami, Marcia received an encrypted message from an unknown sender. Inside were voice clips, phone calls between high-ranking officials discussing damage control. One voice mentioned Ruddock by name. Another said, "He's not supposed to be alive." That night, a car followed her from her apartment to the causeway. When she parked, the headlights stayed on behind her, unmoving, waiting. She called Ruddock. The line cut off. The next day, Ruddock crossed into Costa Rica under an alias, meeting Heller at a border cafe. Heller handed him a thumb drive, data pulled from Seraphim's servers before the blackout. Inside were names, dozens of them. Politicians, contractors, aid executives, spanning 5 countries. But there was more. Hidden in encrypted folders were transport manifests for a new operation scheduled in 2 weeks. Destination, West Africa. Code, Seraphim Delta. The network had lost one route. But the machinery was still running. If they didn't act fast, another wave of victims would disappear, this time halfway across the world. The Interpol authorized a joint task force, including agents from the U.S., Panama, and Jamaica, under one rule: absolute secrecy. Ruddock and Marcia were unofficial advisors, their names scrubbed from every file. The mission: intercept the Seraphim Delta flight before takeoff. At 2:00 a.m., operatives surrounded the airstrip near Tocumen International Airport. Cargo planes idled under dim lights. Workers loading sealed crates marked Medical Outreach, Sierra Leone. Ruddock watched through binoculars. Then he saw him, Felix Mendez, walking toward the jet, flanked by guards. "Visual confirmed," Ruddock whispered. "That's him." The signal was given. Agents moved. Sirens cut through the night. Shouts echoed in Spanish and English. Shots fired. A jet engine roared to life. Mendez tried to flee down the runway, But a burst of light stopped him cold. A police drone had blocked the path, engines shrieking as lights bathed the scene in white. For the first time since Hurricane Melissa, the storm turned, not against the innocent, but against those who fed on their fear. Mendez was captured alive. The containers were opened. Inside, hundreds of stolen passports, medical records, and hard drives cataloging years of trafficking data. Operation Seraphim was over, or so they thought. Back in Miami, Marcia presented her final report to international media outlets. The expose went live worldwide, uncovering how natural disasters were weaponized for profit, and how Seraphim Logistics had used charity as camouflage for organized crime. The story broke borders. News anchors called it the biggest humanitarian scandal of the decade. But for Ruddock, there was no victory, only exhaustion. He watched from a safe house, face lit by the glow of a laptop screen, as politicians made speeches and corporations denied involvement. Justice had a press release. Truth had a price. A week later, Felix Mendez was being transported to a high-security facility in Bogota. His convoy vanished en route. Wreckage was later found deep in the rainforest, burned beyond recognition. No survivors. No body confirmed. Storms rarely end where they begin. They drift, reform, and strike again. Under new names and new places, Ruddock returned to Jamaica quietly. His old neighborhood was rebuilding. New roofs, clean walls, the laughter of children replacing sirens. But behind every fresh coat of paint, he saw ghosts. He walked to the shoreline where Maya's truck was last seen years ago. The tide was calm, the sky clear. He dropped a white feather into the water. "For the ones who didn't make it," he whispered. Meanwhile, in an unknown location, a server blinked to life. A hidden database auto-sensed new files, labeled Seraphim Omega. A voice message, distorted but unmistakably Mendez's, played faintly. "You stopped one operation. Not the mission. Operation Seraphim was meant to end corruption. But in the world built on storms, one truth remains. The wind always changes direction. As one network falls, another rises from the ruins. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another storm is forming." Click for the final episode, The Omega Files. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to True Shadows Reel.